So I'll go ahead and get started. Well, it's 3:59. So let me wait. And it just turned 4. Okay, so I'll get started. Hi, I am so glad to see you guys all again. This is our third session with the C2B2 or C2S2, not B2 series. And there are two more after today. And I'm so excited for this one today because this one is really focusing in on your needs. I think that we as career are frequently just very like self-sacrificing, right? We're always putting ourselves last on that list. We're always pushing our needs aside, right? And I think that it's one of the harder parts of our job is to actually begin to take care of ourselves truly. And I don't know about you, but I know that I have been in probably at least, I don't know, 475 trainings about self-care. Doesn't mean that I'm good at doing it because I keep putting myself off and keep putting my needs last, right? This is what we do. So the more we can talk about it, the more we can build strengths in our self-care and recognize truly that the work we do, it requires us to take care of ourselves. And we can't do this work without taking that time. So when we're thinking, okay, maybe I need to go take a bubble bath, right? And then someone says, hey, we got to do this. No, I've got to do this. It's for the kids. You can make sure that you know that this isn't selfishness. This is actually doing something for the kids that we're working with every single day. So briefly again, Beth, I wanted to give those slides up for you.
Yeah, so many of you have heard this before. We are able to offer trainings like this because we have a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice that has a goal of preventing school violence. And so we're talking about things like mental health and well-being and taking care of ourselves so we can take care of those that we work with. So thank you all for joining us.
All right. And then I have, you know what, and I put it in the same spot when I didn't want to. This is the feedback. I'll go back to this at the end of our session. Okay. So like I said, we're talking about ourselves. We're talking about the work that we do every day. And I'm going to ask you guys to kind of talk into the chat a little bit if you can, or you can unmute. I'm happy to have you talk as well. But this work is wild in the sense that we ourselves underestimate what it actually does to us, but also the community at large underestimates how difficult this job can be and how dangerous this work is. I think that people naturally assume or they kind of know that there's like an innate danger in being a firefighter. There is an innate danger in being a police officer, but we don't think about that with education. But there is an innate danger in the work that we do every day. Now, of course, there's always going to be physical dangers out there, but the dangers that I'm speaking more to is the social and emotional dangers that we face because of this work that we do every day. So I think about this firefighter and I think, okay, well, what can we do to be better at protecting ourselves? And I know you've probably heard that old, metaphor of how do we, put on our, metaphorical jacket and helmet to take care of ourselves because we do have to protect ourselves from the work that we're doing all the time. But first, I just want to ask, what do you think makes this job so dangerous? Like, okay, so Missy said it's dangerous for us, particularly socially and emotionally. Why? Why do you think it's dangerous? If you could type it in or unmute, that'd be great. Yes, let's see. We've got uh ooh, Jessica said we get mentally taxed. Absolutely, right? This is work that takes the amount of thinking of like four people in one body, right? We have to think about so much. We have to be differentiating for all the kids that we're working with, we're answering questions like crazy. And then some of us may have partners like mine who have the audacity to ask us what we want for dinner afterward, right? It's like, I don't want to make a choice. That's what I want for dinner. Because we have to make so many choices and we're mentally overloaded. Tiffany said, overlooking our own emotions to help others, truly. And it's interesting because we even hide our emotions from other people. Even if it's appropriate for us to share those emotions, we will hide it, right? We kind of put that like teacher face on and we don't let it go until maybe we're at home or with our loved ones, right? But when we're at work or at school, and sometimes even in our personal life, we will overlook our own emotions. Vicarious trauma, absolutely. We are working with kiddos who are experiencing very scary things at home, and we are their point people for seeking out help. And hearing those stories about children that you care about is deeply upsetting. It's not something that you can just kind of clock out of, right? This is stuff that we worry about, that we think about for years after that student's even gone. Um, Oh, Jill said how to shut the hamster wheel of worries about my students. Can't stop thinking sometimes exactly that, right? That it just keeps going and we might be worrying about kids that we haven't seen in years, right? It's like whatever happened to that kid? And it's hard to turn this off. I laugh because I always feel like I get this like when I know that I'm feeling burned out, I get the feeling of like I wish I could just like work at Kohl's and like fold clothes for a while, right? Like I just feel like that would be so nice to be able to just kind of clock out of something. And I've shared that with my husband, and my husband said, "Yeah, but like you would find some sort of injustice that was happening at Kohl's and you would, spearhead some change movement." I was like, well, that's probably true. Unfortunately, it's not just our jobs. A lot of times it's us. We also are people who care deeply. We are people who want to help as much as absolutely possible. So even if we did work at Kohl's, I think we probably all would find a way to be advocating for others. And it's hard to turn that hamster wheel off. Stress can absolutely kill you, even though it saves your life all the time. It does put us in that fight, flight, or freeze space way too much, and and hormonally we were really just like kind of all over the place when we're in that stress response system. Um, and as Ms. Goldsmith said, at a constant level of high alert to take care of all student needs. I think that key word there is all, right? That we don't teach language arts, we don't teach history, right? We teach kids, and those kids come with so much that might be coming from home, so much that might be coming from the community or even within their individual friend groups, right? We experience and see and care about all of that stuff. We are the people who care. I think about people sometimes and like, I get curious about people. Like, there are adults who live in our areas that just like never see kids. And I think that would be so weird, right? I mean, I'm sure they like run into one at Target, but like in like most days, like they don't see kids, right? And it's such a huge part of who we are and and who, I'm sorry, and the things that we do every day. And so we deeply care about it. And sometimes the community at large doesn't even know. I think about my husband. My husband, like, he doesn't care about kids. Like, I mean, he cares about kids. Like he cares about, of course, my kids, right? He cares about our neighbor kids. He cares about the kids in my community. I think even, he's got that like I care about the youth of America feeling. But like he doesn't even know to be concerned about Aiden from 4 blocks away who's struggling in math, right? Like he doesn't, folks who don't work with kids and see kids every day, they just don't understand the amount of kids and the amount of worries and the amount of needs that you guys are faced with every single day. And you take that work home. You're right, Amber. We really just cannot clock out of this work. And Monica, the students' needs are so great that we can never meet them all. And that can be really difficult. I find that, we do this work um, and it can feel like, we never get to see the fruition of all the work that we do because it comes years later for them, and we don't always get to see that. And I even think, like, how people say that, like, the first year of any job is the hardest year, right? That first year. And you guys, as classroom teachers, as paraprofessionals, as administrators, like, in education, every year is the first year because it's all new clients, it's all new families, it's all new needs. Sometimes it's all new curriculum, right? And it is difficult when we have to meet all of these needs. Yes, oh, that Janelle has that decision fatigue like me, right? Being asked so many questions, and they're all looking at you like you know all the answers, right? And sometimes we know, but sometimes it's harder than others. We can't shut down the needs of the family and the students is difficult. We also isolate. Terry wrote, we isolate ourselves so we don't load our issues on others. I I really like that because I think that, I don't know, like, it's hard to talk about this with people who don't do the work. It's just kind of hard to talk about because if you start talking about, oh, well, this, and that, then like, oh, but you get summers off. Right? It's like, oh my gosh, right? Like, ugh, it's hard. And if they even knew a quarter of the work that you guys had to do every day, all day, this is not, it's not, it's just not the same as other jobs. And how we know that is most of us have had other jobs, right? Before we had this job. And this is hard. So sometimes, I don't know, I kind of find myself in this conversation about what I do sometimes. And I find that I meet two kinds of people in this world. There's one kind of person that I meet where I'll say, oh, I work in schools, I work with kids, and da da da. And their reaction is like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. You work with kids. Oh, I wish my life had meaning. Right. And I mean, I have to be like, yeah, it is really rewarding, right? Because I don't want to like burst that bubble of any of what they might think education looks like. Um, and then I also meet that second kind of person I meet is kind of like, oh, you work in schools with kids these days. I don't even know how you do it. These kids and their craziness and Common Core and right? And again, I find myself like, oh, well, actually, I've got work with great kids, really resilient families, awesome teachers. Because again, I don't want to feed into that negative energy about what education is. But then it's like, I can't really talk about what it's actually like to do this work, right? And I'm always talking good about this work. And, no one wants to be friends with, the teacher at the party who's like, actually, kids suck sometimes, right? Like, it's not as popular to say that. So, even some of us, I imagine, I know I've tried to talk about this work even with the people that we care about the most, right? I know I've tried to talk to my husband about this work. I come home, he says, "How was your day?" I lay it out what it actually is. He can't handle it. He cannot handle it emotionally. And so now I've gotten to the point where I just will say, "Oh, it was fine." Right? To protect him from that. And because of that is insanely isolating and it can make us feel alone in this. And I think if you take anything from this today, I hope that what you take is that feeling burned out and overwhelmed is a normal part of this job, and that every single one of us feel it, and we feel it at many times during our careers. And it doesn't mean or say anything about who we are as people or how we're doing in our work or what, how successful we are in our job. It's everything to do with the fact that this work is inherently dangerous. And so this does, see if I can find anything else. Challenging students definitely can be difficult. Ah, yes, empathize with students whose needs are so different than ours, right? That they have experiences and emotions that maybe we've not experienced before, or have that personal thing to be able to draw from, right? Um, it's a really difficult time for us when we're looking at working with these kids and trying to help them if we don't have that personal experience to be able to like lean on. Terry, I like she wrote fine in quotes, freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I love that because that's, yeah, I'm fine. Right. It is crazy. We feel crazy sometimes because of this work, and it's hard, and it's emotional, and it weighs on us, and it's dangerous. And like I said, when the community at large sees a firefighter or a police officer, there's no question of why they would be protecting themselves or why they would be, taking care of themselves. Because, you know, every single time there's a fire, that firefighter comes on and he takes that time. And I know sometimes we say we don't have the time to take care of ourselves, but like she's going to a literal fire, right? And they take the time to put the jacket on, put the mask on, put the coat on, and all of that, or the helmet and all that. And no one would judge a firefighter for doing that because they're not just protecting themselves from this fire, right? They're protecting themselves for every fire after it as well, because there will always be another fire. And that's how we need to start seeing the work we're doing. We have to be protecting ourselves and fortifying our gear so that we are protected not just for the issue that happens tomorrow, but for the issue that happens 5 years from now, right? That we need to be protected so that we can stay in the work that we're doing all the time. So how I'm going to talk about this is I'm going to talk about first, well, no, I'll tell you in the way that makes sense first. So we're going to talk about what that metaphorical jacket looks like, right? What that helmet looks like, what the mask looks like for us, right? What does that gear look like? And how do you know if you're starting to feel a little bit of burn, right? How do you know that something's happening? Maybe I'm feeling a little bit of the burn. And then what do I do in that moment that pulls the fire alarm that can help extinguish that burn as fast as possible? Right. So I know that sounds very linear and it makes sense to talk about it that way, but I'm not going to talk about it that way. We're going to first talk about the warning signs that you're feeling burned. The reason I want to talk about this first is because I want to get all the bummer stuff over first. So then we could get on to the fun stuff, to the solution-based conversation. So how do we know that we are starting to feel burned? Again, this is a normal, all the time thing that happens to us as educators. It doesn't say anything about me as a person. It just says that, hey, I'm close to fire and I might get burned, right? So, some warning signs you might start to notice. First is exhaustion, right? Exhaustion. This is like the kind of tired, like you can barely get home just to take your shoes off, fall asleep fully dressed on the couch, kind of tired, right? This exhaustion can permeate into our lives all the time. And I don't know, do you ever feel like other people's tired is cute? Do you ever feel that way? So I feel like that sometimes. Like my husband comes home from work and he's like, "Oh, I'm exhausted." And I'm like, "Oh, you must be so tired. You sat in a big comfy chair all day. You got to go to the restroom whenever you wanted. You got to take that 45-minute lunch. You must be exhausted, right?" We underestimate how much energy this actually takes to do this work. And we even just like play it off like, well, that's just work, right? We don't even count it sometimes. I think about all the times in my life that I'm like starting a diet. I don't know if you've ever done this, where you're starting a diet and then like one of the questions is like rate your physical activity. And so then I'm like looking like A, B, C, D. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm gonna mark this one that says sedentary, and I would mark zombie level if I could. And that's because I was only ever thinking about my physical activity after work, right? And I would see these people on social media and Instagram like walking their dogs and like training for half marathons. And I'm like, who are these people? Like, who are these superhuman people who have all of this energy that they can walk dogs, that they can plan for extracurricular physical activity? I can't even imagine that, right? You guys, it took me kind of an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that I wasn't counting the 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 steps a day I was taking at work, right? That was just work. It's not physical activity, it's work. You know, I start to understand, okay, this is how they're training for the half marathon because we're training for the half marathon every day, all day at work. That's why we're so tired when we get home. This work is physically taxing. And as we already said, mentally exhausting and intellectually exhausting, emotionally exhausting. We have to be on all the time. And it is a really difficult space to be in sometimes. And I think about those times when you like get in your car and you just like drive home in silence. I don't know if you've ever had one of those days, just to like I just need the quiet, right? So again, every once in a while, we're going to feel tired. This is normal stuff, right? Maybe, obviously we're coming into the holiday seasons. There's going to be like holiday parties and we've got midterms and we've got all the stuff that makes sense that like, yeah, I'm feeling more tired this week than I normally would. That makes sense. But if we start to see this kind of exhaustion happening on trend, something's going on. Our body's actually trying to tell us that something's happening. So the next warning sign, uh, I like to think of it as Eeyore syndrome. So Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Um, I don't know if any of you guys have ever met an Eeyore in your real life. Right. You probably have. I find that in schools, Eeyores tend to like meander around the teacher's lounge or office, and you come in with a new exciting idea, and they're like, oh, well, I tried that last year. It didn't work for me, but good luck, I guess. Right. Or maybe they're at the staff meeting and they're like, don't get used to the standards. They'll change next year. Right. This is something that happens to us. And if it, of course, if you're finding yourself in that spot, like every once in a while is okay. We've all got the tendencies to be a negative Nancy or a little bit of a Debbie Downer every once in a while. But if we start recognizing that Eeyore voice as our own over and over and over again, and like the consistent naysayer in the room, something's going on. Our body's actually trying to tell us something. So the next warning that we might be experiencing this burn. This one's interesting because the very first time I recognized or identified that I was feeling this, I didn't see it as work related, but it was. So, what this is an apathy or an insensitivity to things that are happening outside of your own personal bubble, right? So, like, I think about, so the first time I recognized it was right during the Boston Marathon bombing. And I remember seeing the footage, the very first footage of it on TV. And in my mind and in my heart, I was just kind of like, well, I mean, them and everybody else. Right. And that was a real kick in the pants for me. Like, I wouldn't normally be or feel so casual about something so serious. But it was like in that moment, I just didn't have it in me to care about something that didn't directly impact me. Right. I used to think about my empathy as something that would fill a glass, right? That I can only care about so much. But when we're talking about this compassion fatigue, it's more than that. And I had a teacher once tell me, and this example, this analogy, I think is like the best. So she said that her empathy works more like a rubber band, right? And she can stretch that rubber band to care about her family and her friends and her coworkers, her supervisor, and her students and her students' parents and her hours stretching, stretching, stretching. And then we try to stretch just one more step out, and the rubber band breaks. And I start to lose the ability to care about any of it anymore. And then it takes time for me to rebuild that elasticity. I love that analogy because I've felt that. I know what that feels like when it's not just a national thing that I'm feeling casual about, but now it's something that's happening right here in my own community, or maybe even sometimes things happening right here in my own home that I'm just kind of numb to now. Something's going on. Now, every once in a while, we are all guilty of this. Every once in a while, kids talking to us about something super serious, and we're like running a grocery list in our head. We are all guilty of that, and that's normal. But if we see ourselves there on trend, something's going on. Our body is actually trying to tell us something. So now, if you find yourself avoiding people in your life that you do not like, keep doing that. That is 100% normal. Please avoid the people in your life that you don't like. But if you start to find yourself avoiding people in your life that you actually genuinely like to talk to, genuinely like to hang out with, your friends, the people who you really care about, all of a sudden we're saying, no, I'm busy, when really all our plans are Oreos and Netflix, right? Or we're maybe side clicking and ignoring the phone call over and over and over again. Again, every once in a while, we want to go off grid and hide under the covers for a weekend. That makes sense. But on trend, something's going on if we're avoiding the folks that we care about the most and actually enjoy spending time with. So this one's interesting to me too, because I didn't experience this one for many years. Until COVID. And this symptom is like like a sense of inefficacy, like that feeling of like, am I doing a good job? Like, am I, working towards the mission and purpose that I thought I was working toward, right? And so I just started to feel this for the first time around COVID. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this like the midlife crisis? Because I was turning 40. And I'm like, is this that midlife crisis everyone talks about? And I'm going to go buy a convertible or something. But then I had to recognize that I wasn't doing the purpose or mission that I had set out to. I was on all Zooms all the time. I was not interacting with people, and that wasn't the job I signed up for. So it made sense. But I've had times that it feels like this where I'm just not sure that I'm on it, right? And again, every once in a while, you try a new activity, you try something new, and it like fails miserably. I've had that happen many times. That's normal. It happens. And you're like, oh, not do that again, right? But if we're consistently starting to feel on trend that maybe we're not doing a good job, or maybe we're not meeting the goals that we want to meet, or the mission or purpose of what we want to be, if we're feeling that on trend, it's something else going on. Our body's trying to tell us something. All right, so this next one, I don't want anyone to be offended. Please don't be offended at all. But apparently, there is a portion of our population that when they get really stressed out, they want to work out a lot. And I just like really wish I was on that side, right? Like I am nowhere near that side of that spectrum. I'm way on the other end where I'm like, stressed out. I'm gonna like collect as many non-perishable items as I can to create like a semicircle around my body so that I don't have to move for like 24 to 48 hours, normal stuff like that. It's hard though, because those of you who are using physical activity as a stress reliever, that is so good for you. It is absolutely, absolutely a positive, good for you coping mechanism. And you should be using exercise as a coping mechanism. And it's healthy for you until it's not. And sometimes that can be a hard line to know where that line is. Because, maybe hey, when I would take that run in the morning, I used to feel good for the whole day. Or maybe I'd walk my dog at night or walk with my partner after dinner and I could sleep like a baby, right? And all of a sudden, that's not working anymore. And so you might think, well, if I add more time or more distance or more weight at the gym, that I will get that stress relief again, and it's still not working. And now we're starting to interfere with other things that are important to us by adding on more exercise, seeking that stress relief over and over again. This is when that really, really good for you coping mechanism shifts into something else where this isn't so healthy for me, that maybe it's taking away from other parts of my life that are really important to me. It's hard to know where that line is for you, but recognizing that it's possible, I think, is important. So, of course, every once in a while, you're stressed out, you're gonna like, I don't know, like hit it out hard at the gym. I don't even really know the language around that. Or you're gonna go into total sloth mode like me. That's normal every once in a while. But if you're seeing it on trend, something's going on. Your body is trying to tell you something. Now, the muscle work that I tend to use the most, particularly when I'm stressed, tends to be like the chewing and swallowing muscle work. Right? We know that stress impacts the way that we eat. And this is on a spectrum too. I've been on both ends. On one end, you have that, oh, I'm so stressed I can't eat. And the hardest part for me, at least when I get there, is that feeling like I'm only eating for sustenance, right? That I don't have feelings around this food anymore, right? I used to be able to eat this recipe of my grandma's and it would make me feel something, but now it's just substance and almost like I can't even taste it. Sometimes it gets there. Now, way more often for me, I tend to go to the opposite end of this spectrum. I'm super stressed out. I'm going to go through the McDonald's drive-through and then I'm going to go through the Wendy's drive-through because I want a Frosty, but I'm going to hide my McDonald's bags from the cashier at McDonald's or at Wendy's because I'm really like nervous about the judgment of the people who work there to know that this is my second drive-through of the day. Um, maybe that's just me. Uh, that tends to be where I end up more, right? Overeating, eating entirely too much ice cream for me when I'm stressed out. Um, of course, every once in a while, you miss a meal, something stressful's going on, that's normal. You binge out like I do, you get an extra frosty, that's normal, right? But if you're seeing this on trend, something's happening. Our body's actually trying to tell us something. So now you guys now know that Frosties are my vice of choice, but we all have our vices that we go to when we're stressed. So I'm not telling you that you can't drink. That's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm actually not even talking about those of you who are like pairing like wines with like Blue Apron meals. No, I want you to come and cook at my house. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that feeling of I'm so stressed I need a drink. Honestly, whether you have the drink or not, my concern is the feeling, right? I'm so stressed I need a drink. And again, every once in a while, we seek out those coping mechanisms. It's normal. Had a hard day, just got through testing. It's winter break, right? Hey, I'm going to have a couple glasses of wine. That's normal. But if we're starting to have that feeling of I'm so stressed, I need a drink on trend, something's going on. Our body's trying to tell us something. So the last warning sign I want to talk about is that when we start to feel the burn, we overreact. And we often overreact on people who don't deserve it. We overreact on our own family members. We overreact on our coworkers, our supervisors, strangers in traffic, right? Like we overreact in personal conversations and situations. And again, every once in a while, you get a little bit of a short fuse and you nip at somebody. That's normal. But if we're seeing this on trend, something's going on. Our body is trying to tell us something. All right. did I get everyone like sufficiently bummed? Like, are we at that like super bummed level of like this job is so hard and it really can take a toll on us in so many different ways? So now what? Right now, what do we do? How do we move forward in this work? And how do we think about self-care in a little bit of a different way? When I think about self-care, first off, there's like misconceptions about self-care. I feel like first, I think that it's just a weird word. I don't like it. I also feel like it's it, it implies, so like the word self implies that it's all on me. And I remember feeling like, oh, that's just like another thing I'm not doing well, right? It's like, oh, great. Now I'm not taking care of myself enough. Um, and when I think about that, though, truly, when I think about self-care, it's not actually only on me because in the work that we do, we face systemic barriers for us taking care of ourselves, right? For example, couple slides, I'm going to tell you to drink more water. You're not going to drink a single ounce more of water if you're not getting appropriate bathroom breaks, right? I know some of us are going through that day and holding it all day because we don't have that minute. We don't have that second to go to the restroom. So you want me to put more in me? There's no way, right? Or we set ourselves up for, we know that it's testing week. We know we're going to feel stressed every week or every year. We know we're going to be stressed. I met a teacher once who she said during testing week, it always ended up like coming on her because she was, really involved staff member. And the administrator would come to her like in March and be like, hey, everyone's super stressed out. So can you plan like a self-care thing for everybody? She's like, so now here I am super stressed out because it's testing. And now I got to plan a self-care party for all of them, right? We could be doing better. We could be preparing in November for March. We could plan. And that teacher in particular, she shared with me that she started a group, and it's just a couple of teachers. And in the fall, they do everything they need to do. They buy non-perishable items, they schedule a masseuse, they do like the plates and the all that stuff, and then they put it all away, and it just becomes that's going to be the meeting. So come March, we don't have anything to do. We just got to open the door and lay the stuff out. It's already planned. And by just creating that little bit of forethought as a system really helped. I had a school that I know they had a really fancy name for it, but I can't remember the name. It was a potty program and it was visually represented in their teachers lounge. And how this potty program worked was that you had to volunteer to get into the program. It was all staff led. And so if you would volunteer into the program, and by volunteering into the program, you were offering 2 2-minute breaks to staff members during your planning period. So during your planning period, you would go and give Miss Jones a 2-minute potty break, and then you would go and give Mr. Jackson a 2-minute potty break, and then you'd go back to your planning. And every day it was Miss Jones and Mr. Jackson, Miss Jones, Mr. Jackson, same time every day. Um, and then in turn, what you get back from this is you then get two other 2-minute pee breaks during your day outside of that planning time. I don't know what kind of logistics genius put this all together, but it was awesome because I mean, with two breaks and that's three pee breaks a day. Like that's like royalty for me some days, right? Like that's crazy. That would be awesome. So recognizing that there are system barriers sometimes that come into play that make it difficult for us to take care of ourselves. It's not even really about us. Sometimes another thing is that in our job, because we are self-sacrificers. Um, it is a high value. It's very well, I was going to say valued again, but I want a different word. It is something that is seen as a powerful trait in us as people. And so I see people brag about self-sacrifice. Here's the thing, on social media, I know that they don't think they're bragging, but they are. So
Oh,
like,
yes, I did,
or
but I
you just
didn't
maybe
know you
see
were up in the
someone,
library,
oh,
and I
hey,
didn't see the
someone's
message
on
until
mute.
like 3 o'clock. So I,
Oh, there we go. Um, so I know that they don't think that they're bragging, but they are, because like you'll see on social media, they'll be like, "Oh, I had to grade papers all weekend long," or whatever. But that complaint is actually a brag because self-sacrifice is so valued in this work, right? It's like a little badge of honor that we wear every day. And as long as we continue that culture of self-sacrifice as a value and a pin that we can push or put onto our sweater, the more we will sacrifice our own needs, right? And I would like for us to switch that concept and start to brag about when you've done something that was for yourself. So I know that on Instagram, there's at least it's trending. The hashtag is trending on it at least like one Instagram account. And that is selfish brag, right? Hey, I could have graded papers, but instead I watched Christmas movies with my kids, right? Giving
or the
yourself the permission to share that. And when we share it, we as a community need to be better about accepting it when they share it, right? Because I know that sometimes we don't even let other people take care of themselves. Someone comes in, they're like, "Oh yeah, I got to go do this, do that. I got a bubble bath, I got this." And there's always someone in the room that's like, "Oh, it must be nice having all this bubble bath time," right? We don't even let other people take care of themselves. But we can change that, right? We could start thinking about this as a necessary part of our work and not something that is us selfishly taking care of ourselves. The next misconception I think about with self-care is I feel like the concept of self-care has been like hijacked by an entire industry of products at Five Below. Like I don't understand, like it's all just like, here's how you meditate and here do this, like it's all this crazy stuff, right? And self-care doesn't have to be that. I mean, it can be. If meditation, if mindfulness, if deep breathing, if yoga, if those things are your go-to things that you feel good when you're doing those things, then it's your self-care. But it's not going to be everybody's self-care. And the key thing about self-care is that self-care does not have to make you physically healthier in any way. You do not have to choose things that will make you physically healthier, right? I mean, should I eat better? Probably. Is it going to be easier to do something that I actually enjoy? Yeah, right. My go-to self-care is singing karaoke in my living room. So, I mean, it's like a thing. I have two speakers. I have like four microphones. It's a thing. I've had parties. It's very fun. It doesn't make me physically any healthier. I imagine that those parties sometimes make me physically less healthy because I'm eating, queso dip and drinking, right? But having a blast. It is something that helps us feel more like ourselves, right? It's something that we enjoy doing, that we feel good about being who we are when we're doing those things. And it could be anything. Maybe it's going golfing, maybe it's, going somewhere where you can read. Maybe it's taking a bath. Maybe it's playing basketball with your kids. Maybe it's going and looking at nail polish at Target. I don't know what you like to do, right? The things that you like to do that make you feel good about being you. I recognize that for some of us, we've been doing for others for so long that we might forget what we even like to do that makes us feel good about being us. We forget. And it's like, oh gosh, what should I do? So I recognize that a part of this journey is for some of us discovering what this is that we even like to do. Um, but then also, I know some of us might be looking back on things that used to be good for us, right? That we used to like to do, but those things feel really far away now. Like for example, I know when I was like in high school and college, for me, I loved rock climbing. Rock climbing was something that was something stress reliever for me. Y'all, I like couldn't be further from scaling my body up a wall right now. Like that's not going to be my self-care of choice. And it was great then, but that doesn't mean there's not 100 other things I could do now that made me feel good about being me. It doesn't have to be the thing that it used to be either. It could be something else. And I love thinking about this because it opens up the floor. Because again, if we are consistently thinking that this has to look a certain way or be a certain thing, then it's hard for us to do because we don't all fit into that same box. And so as we move through, what we need to do, we can be thinking about what is this thing I like? What do I even like to spend time doing? Because how because prioritizing time for that thing is going to come next. But we got to kind of figure out what it is that we even like to do. And it might be a whole bunch of different things. And that's okay too. But I make very good New Year's resolutions, and it's something I brag about. And in 24, my New Year's resolution was 24 and 24. So I was trying two new things every month. And that was so fun, right? It doesn't have to be something that you've always done. It doesn't have to be something, it could be brand new. And it could be something that maybe you only try for a little bit and then don't do it anymore. That's okay too, right? Because all of this is us taking care of ourselves. Now, of course, we all need to be better, me included, about eating every day, drinking water, and sleeping all the time, right? Not all the time, sleeping appropriate times. So we need to be eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks every day. It's a weird thing about us as human beings. We got to put stuff in our mouths to get energy, right? We have to eat something. And I know that sometimes that might not be realistic in the schedule that you're working it with. Maybe you're not getting that opportunity. But you still need to make an effort. You need to think about, okay, if I don't get a lunch break on Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe I got this big bag of, almonds that's in my desk. I can take a handful of 10 of them and shove them down my mouth, right? Because I mean, I don't know any of you guys at all, but I do know one thing about you. I know that you are not nice when you're hungry. None of us are, right? So if we're continuously every day hungry, 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 it's going to wear on us physically, but very much on the way that we interact with other people. So we want to make sure we're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks every single day. I don't care what you eat. I mean, it could be a Snickers bar. I don't care. I'm not your doctor. But you should eat something, right? Then we have to drink water. So water is it's crazy how dehydrated we are as a population. The American population is perpetually dehydrated. Did you know that thirst pains feel the same as hunger pains? You get that rumbly in your tummy when you're thirsty as well. So next time you're hungry, drink a big glass of water because you're probably also thirsty. And so recommended ounces every day. The traditional ounce recommendation was 64 ounces. So it was like eight ounce glasses, right? Or I think about this is my water bottle. This is 30 ounces. So it's like two of these a day and a big old gulp in the morning or whatever, right? That's I guess, yeah, that would be good. 64 is the traditional. Modern recommendations says half your body weight in ounces. Y'all, I feel like I would drown. So you just gotta start where you are. I feel like drink more today than you did yesterday. If you feel like you want a number of ounces to aim for, pick something that's gonna be kind of hard but realistic for you. Maybe it's 64 ounces, maybe it's 30 ounces. Shoot, maybe it's 10 ounces, right? Whatever that goal is for more water today than yesterday, because it makes such a big difference. Patricia, it is a lot of water to do half your body weight in water. It's so crazy. I love the folks saying how they feel different, act different when they're dehydrated. It's so true. We are just perpetually dehydrated as a population. So drink more water. And then you need to sleep every single night, 6 to 8 hours. Now, saying that really I'm saying 7 to 8, but even then I'm saying 8. um we need to get about 8, right? There's nowhere in like you used to see those, like if you have small children, you've seen those charts of like, this is how much sleep humans need, right? And it's like, this is at this time, this is at this time. There's never a spot in our milestone of growth where it says that we're good on less than 6 hours of sleep, because we're not, right? We need to be consistently getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Now, if you don't already have something diagnosed, something hormonal, ladies, um, kids or pets that are frequently waking you up in the night, um, talk to your doctor about it. I myself have a sleep disorder. There has been nothing that has changed my life more for the positive than getting it appropriately treated. I'm not saying you have something, but if you're frequently finding yourself waking up, of course, every once in a while we get a crappy night's sleep. That's normal. But on trend, um, something's going on. Let's talk to somebody about it, because we need to be getting more sleep as humans. And sometimes I hear people who will say, like, actually, I feel like I work really well on less sleep. Like the less sleep I have, I feel like more productive. So technically, technically, there is a sleep disorder in which you actually only need to sleep 4 to 5 hours of sleep. But that's like point one of the population. So you don't have it. That feeling that we get of like, I feel like I work better with 4 to 5 hours of sleep. That is the same feeling that we get when we're like, I feel like I drive better on 4 to 5 beers. We might think it, we might even perceive it, but it is not the truth, right? We work best on 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Getting that sleep is so important. And then we got to wake up and we got to do it all over again every day of our lives until we die, because we're humans. That's what we have to do. Weird little bodies that we have to take care of. I think about work-life balance, and it just cracks me up because work-life balance isn't something that like millennials made up, you know? It's not like sometimes I hear people say things like, "Oh, these darn kids, they want jobs and families." And I mean, we do, right? We all do. And I think about my own grandpa. So like my grandpa, he worked for Goodyear here in Akron, and he worked, if you've ever been to Akron, you may have seen the very large Goodyear hangar, right? And it's the big building. It's like a dome where the blimps live, right? The Goodyear blimps. And he worked there. Very cool job that he had. But he would go to work 40 hours a week, and then he'd come home and spend time with his family, right? He wasn't checking his email on his smartphone, right? That's us. That's what we're doing now. And we need to start building ourselves some boundaries around that, because I know that we all went off the deep end during COVID, right? Now all of a sudden I'm responding to parents at midnight. Like, what am I doing with my life, right? How can I start managing this back to an appropriate space not just logistically, but also in that hamster wheel that we were talking about earlier, right? So I would never tell you to not worry. I'm a worrier myself. Um, but I have found this tool to be very successful for me. It's really just looking at the thing that you're hashing over again and again and again and asking yourself, okay, is this thing the wind? Because if it's the wind, I can't change it. And I could bash my head against this brick wall all night long and it won't matter, right? So when I find something that is the wind, I then ask myself, what are three sales? What are three things that I can do around that wind that can help me? So maybe I can't control this thing, but I can control the way that I talk about this thing to my children tomorrow. Maybe I can also look at a way that I might start documenting my own needs differently around that thing, right? I literally in my phone have a note that's titled sales. And so when I find myself in that space of what I can control and what I can't control, um, I just pull my phone out and write those three sales down. It- just because now it's down, now it's done. You already thought of it and you can let it go. You can let it go and have dinner with your family. You can let it go and you can fall asleep, right? Because I already have the plan. I'm already going to do those three things. I find that to be helpful to stop that hamster wheel over and over and over again. Um, and the more you practice kind of separating sales, the better you get at it. And then it's really fun because then you can start to help your loved ones do the same. Um, like I said, we can logistically start to think about what we're doing as well, like setting boundaries and taking the break that we are contractually allotted. I imagine that most of you in your contract have some sort of break time established. It's state law. But I know also that if you guys are like me, that you might be like, oh, well, I was supposed to go to lunch, but it's fine. I'll eat while we're working. Just keep going, right? Or, oh, I was gonna pop in the bathroom, but I can help here for a second here, right? And we're always letting go of that break time, even though we're entitled to it. How do we start saying, no, I'm going to take this break? I worked with an administrator once, and she was new in the building, and she had an open door policy. And, she wanted it to be, she wanted to be available to students, to teachers, to families, to everyone. She wanted that open door policy. And so I was working with her and I said, okay, but like, when do you close the door? And she was like, no, no, like it's open door policy. And I was like, I hear what you're saying, but like, when do you close the door? Right. And she was like, no, I don't ever do it. And I said, let's talk about how you can. And she said, but what if, what if, what if? I said, all right, let's write them down. And she got a little post-it and she made a little bullet list of what if, what if, what if, right? And then she hung it on her door and it said, I'll be taking a break from 10:10 a.m. to 10:20 a.m. If you need bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, you may knock. Otherwise, I will see you at 10:20. It's this funny thing that happens when we start to build boundaries and assert those boundaries. People start to respect those boundaries. It's wild, right? I think sometimes we make the assumption that people should know what we need or that it should be expected that this thing exists. But everyone's boundaries are going to be different. Everyone's needs are going to be different. So we have to be able to voice what those boundaries are. So I can say to families, hey, I don't respond to emails after 6 p.m., right? I can say to coworkers, I don't, I'm not going to be able to get contacted after 8 p.m. I don't know what your boundaries are, right? But those boundaries are important. I know that as leaders, the more we start taking these steps of making boundaries and saying what we need, the better we are at allowing our staff to do it, right? We're changing that culture away from self-sacrifice, because if I always have my door open as a leader and I never shut the door, and I never take a break, I'm only encouraging everyone else to never take a break, right? We have to walk the walk that we're talking. And how do we do that in a way that makes sense to us, in a way that respects our own personal boundaries? I'm sure many of you guys have found yourself in a place where, I know I've been there, where someone totally breaches your boundaries, like totally, like just like makes you very upset. And you are mad, like, right? I'm mad that someone broke these boundaries of mine. And when I think about it, like I never actually really told this person that that was a boundary for me, or anyone that that was a boundary for me. And now I'm not even going to tell them that I was upset about the thing. I'm just going to keep that rock of resentment in my tummy around that boundary that they crossed, that they didn't know existed, right? We can be better about this. We can start thinking about what our boundaries are and setting those limits for each other, so that we are avoiding each other's boundaries as much as possible, right? Or respecting them as much as possible, but also so that we know on the back end, this work doesn't always make me good in the moment, right? But if I know that, you're not going to answer a call after 8 p.m. and I call you at 9:30, I at least know to say, I'm so sorry. I know that you don't take calls after 8. That I can on the back end, recognize that I am crossing a boundary, but it's for a specific reason. Um, I love the folks in the chat. Adulting does suck. Um, what is sleep? How can you change your mindset when it's set on autopilot and you've been a certain way for years? I've heard all these sayings so many times and I can't break the cycle. It is so tough. It does genuinely take practice, just like anything else. And it's a couple of steps of work. I think about learning these skills is the same thing that we do when we learn to read or when we learn to do anything. It takes practice, and sometimes that practice will start with just identifying what a boundary of mine is. Maybe it's around emails, right? Maybe it's around phone calls. Maybe it's around grading papers. Maybe it's around that lunch break, right? Kind of figure out what one thing is at a time and take it one step at a time, so that you're setting those boundaries. And then as you get into your head, right, and you're thinking about this autopilot of that hamster wheel that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, as I said, being able to like write it down has been helpful for me. But it does take practice, and it's not something that I get rid of. Like I'm always kind of worrying, but it's more of a productive worry when I'm able to write down sales, right? At least I feel like there's something coming of it and that I know what I'm going to do tomorrow. That way I can just let it go for now and then be able to have dinner with my family or do whatever it is. I love, she said she's gonna put a sign on her door that says engaging in self-care at the moment. I love that. So other things that we could be doing more are the things that just make us feel sane, right? I think that some of us, you feel so much better and you feel so much more like yourself and you feel so much calmer when you're given the opportunity to create something, whether that be artistic or baking or like carpentry or like building PowerPoints is something I like to do, right? I'm sure many of you guys get that self-care feeling when you're given that opportunity to have that really strong creative outlet. So we're going to eat, drink, sleep more. We're going to balance our workout more, set boundaries more. We're going to create more if that's something that makes us feel good and feel like we're meeting that purpose. I know some of you guys, this is not me, but I know some of you guys might feel really good when you get a chance to like clean something, right? When you get a chance to clean something or label something or organize something, that sorting process, right? I like the sorting. I don't like the cleaning part of it, but I think about when my son, I really miss it these days. When my son was younger, he was really into the Pokemon cards. And it was great. He had this whole folder, and I was playing with the Pokemon cards way more than he was because I was like sorting them by color and by evolution and by skill, right? Just that sorting, that kind of mindlessness does help with that hamster wheel, right? So maybe it's creating something new, maybe it's labeling something or cleaning something. We could also be thinking about giving to others, right? I know many of us are feel fulfilled when we are of service to others. And I think that there are so many opportunities for us to do this in small ways. I think that I don't know if you've ever felt like the philanthropic power of like leaving your quarter in an Aldi's cart. I don't know if you've ever done that. I've done it. Makes me feel like I'm a Rockefeller. I'm like, I don't even need that quarter, right? Like I feel like $1 million. Um, it's okay to do these small things for people. It is something that helps us feel more seen, helps us feel more together, and just helps us. So taking time to do things for others that maybe aren't things that you would normally do, little things. So we could create more, we could clean more, label, right? Eat better, set some boundaries, and then we're just gonna do something fun. You gotta do stuff that is fun for you, right? Not everybody's fun is the same. And it's it is really just taking a chance because as we get older, we stop taking risks in ways that we did when we were younger. We stop trying new things in ways that we did when we were younger. And some of this is just committing to saying yes, right? That I'm going to start saying yes to things. I'm going to start saying yes to those opportunities for fun because maybe it will be fun and maybe I will love it. I know that it'll I have to drag myself out into the snow, right? And like, ugh, but it will be worth it when you come back. And I know that that can be hard. Another one of my New Year's resolutions a couple years back was anytime I felt or thought that I was too old for something or too fat for something, that now required me to do that thing. That took me on a ride, guys. I joined a hip hop dance club that year. I went, bought and wore bikinis, went to the water park and stood in line with all the like 12-year-old boys to do the surfer experience at Kalahari, right? Um, and they had to give me a t-shirt because I was wearing a bikini, right? So I'm this mom in line in a t-shirt. It was great. It was awesome. It was so fun. It just took me saying yes to do. I recognize that sometimes when we say yes to do things, it can make us look a little silly, but you have to remember that those people who think you look silly, they're the ones who have the problem, not you, right? I know that when I was in line with those kids, there were probably adults looking at me and maybe saying things or thinking things about me doing that Kalahari surfer. Well, it's not me, it's you, because the one thing I know about me is that I'm freaking awesome. And I do a lot of really awesome, fun things. And you're the lame one who's sitting there not doing the surfer experience, right? Sometimes it does take that mental energy to just say, hey, I don't care. I don't care. I want to do something fun and I want to do something new, or I want to try new foods or go new places. Really start to say yes in your life. It truly does make a difference. You are given so many opportunities for fun that you probably don't even realize. So take a chance, take that risk, have fun. We're going to clean, we're going to create, we're going to give to others, we're going to eat better, set boundaries, we're going to do fun things, right? I want you to think about this though, like a lesson plan. To me, it really truly is only going to work if it works within the day that you're working it, right? Like I've sat in all of these sessions on self-care, just like probably many of you have. And like you walk away committing to something like, something crazy. Like I'm going to do this, this, and this. And like maybe the first couple of days after the session, you do a great job. But then all that goes out the window and you forget, or it gets too hard and we just stop. So how can we actually put this into an everyday experience? Because I mean, getting the massage is great, right? Go get the massage, keep the appointment, right? That's great self-care. But that can't be the only self-care, right? Self-care has to be every day. Putting that coat on, putting that helmet on every day. What does that look like for you? So for me, am I going to wake up a half hour early and do flow yoga? No, I'm not. I might try. I won't do it consistently. I know myself, right? Could I wake up 5 minutes early and just like stretch in bed? That seems more realistic for me and good, right? Am I going to get that 20 minutes in in the courtyard to have lunch and meditate? No, I'm not going to get that. But do I have those 10 almonds that I can shove down my throat to get me through the rest of today, right? I need something there. Am I going to be able to, I don't know, eat more kale? No, I'm not going to eat any more kale. But could I remember this ding dang water bottle everywhere I go? I could do that. Does that mean I'm going to drink all this water? No, no. But does it give me a good chance to drink this water? Certainly a better one when I bring it every day, right? Um, little things that we do every day. So for example, me, every time I touch a doorknob, I take a deep breath. Something silly that I do. In between classes, if we're on a bell schedule, we can make a ritual of things that we do in between those classes that are quick, that are easy, that are not this huge undertaking, that are something that I can continuously do and actually kick butt at this. And it's something that I will actually accomplish. Okay, so we talked about the warning signs of how you know you get that you might be getting burned. We talked about kind of the proactive stuff that we can do. And I want us actually just to take a minute and I want you to pick a couple things. I know it says pick one, but pick a couple things that you could commit to for just like winter break. So like the next couple of weeks, something that you could do for you. And if you'd like to share, I'd love to see it in the chat.
Phoebe, stop.
Amber's going to be drinking water. Very good. All right. We've got Janelle making quiet time with no tech. Oh, that's a good one. Tiffany's going to be paint something and taking a break throughout the day to find silence. Excellent. Terry just wants to sit and read a book and not worry about anything else. That sounds amazing. Karen's going to play with grandbabies and get your hair done and nails. That sounds amazing. Jessica is making plans with loved ones. Tammy is taking some baths with bath bombs. Very cool. Angie's planning more vacations. Kate is going to read her Kindle. Shannon is walking every day on the new walking G pad or walking. I don't know what that is, and scrapbook a bit each day. Oh, maybe it's one of those like treadmills that you walk on. I don't know. Maybe. Um, Water and sleep, absolutely. 15 minutes a day for movement, right? Planning vacations, taking time from technology, day trips, family time, using essential oils, extra deep breaths, shutting the door for me moments, more vacations. Oh, I'm so excited about the vacations for you guys. 3 books that have been waiting for you to read, spending more time with family, repainting rooms, get back to training your dogs, quiet music, arranging your space, getting back into painting, friend time. This sounds amazing, right? It's it's these little things that make this huge difference. It's not meditation. It's not kale. It's not,
Mhm.
this big thing. It's the things that we're doing every day that are important to us, that make us feel good about being who we are as human beings. That is what we take the time for every day. So now that we've gone through all of that and we've all chosen something that we're going to do for ourselves, now we're going to get to the last part, which is what to do if we start to notice. Remember, I said how we protect ourselves, what's our metaphorical helmet and jacket? What are the warning signs that maybe we're starting to feel burned out? And then if we start to feel burned out, what is the emergency cord? What is the cord that we pull so that we can treat that burn as best way as possible, really? So that's what we're going to now is this emergency cord. So I know that I talked about a lot of like generalities, like not getting enough sleep or eating different or Eeyore syndrome. I talked about those kinds of things. But I actually want us to think about this stuff specific to you. And I'd like you to take a minute and just think about it and kind of follow along with me, just so that you can have a plan before we leave today. So the we actually follow what's called the 5W plan. So the first W is when. So as I said, I already said some general things, but maybe there are some things about you that are like a clear sign that you're getting burned. Something's going on, right? For me, I know that the faster I'm talking, the more stressed I am. I know that the more stressed I get, I start to cry at things like insurance commercials, right? Like those are things that are specific to me. So take a second. What are some things about you that hey, this might be, I need to pull that cord. This is when. Go ahead and write a couple things down or think of it. I want you to have a little bit of an idea. You don't have to share with me if you don't want. Ooh, that's a good one, Tammy. Everything annoys me. I think I get that way too. Oh, nighttime lullabies. Good. Once we start to be able to kind of pinpoint that when moment for us in particular, right? That's the time that we pull that cord. The next W in that moment is who. So this is who can you connect with, whether that's text, talk to, see in person, that will help you feel more grounded. So I want to caution you a little bit because sometimes, like for me, my first instinct is to go to my two best friends, right? Like two best friends, absolutely. That's who I would go to if I needed anything. But let's say it's like 10:30 on a Tuesday morning and I got to stay at work, right? If I text my friends or call my friends are like ride or die kind of friends, and they'll be like, "Oh, no, they will not talk to you that way. They will not treat you that way. This is what we're going to do." Right. So now I called my friends at a 10. Now all three of us are at a 15 and we're about to go fight somebody. Right. That is not the right people to call at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. Right. Maybe that's a Friday happy hour conversation. But right now, who do I go to? Who can I text? Who can I call? Who can I talk to that will help me feel more grounded and help me feel like I can stay at work and make it through the rest of today? Maybe that's my partner at home. Maybe that's a family member, a friend. Maybe it's a coworker or a supervisor, someone's classroom, someone's office, someone that I can go to that can help me feel a little bit more grounded so I can get through the rest of today. So as we move through the W's, right, we know when we're going to pull that emergency cord. We know who we could go to that help us feel more grounded. And the next W is what? Again, I know I said things like, going and looking at nail polish or playing basketball or walking your dog or taking a bath. But again, it's 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. I can't just like go home and sing karaoke, right? I got to stay at work. So what can I do right here, right? It's not going to be like the thing I would most want to do, but it's something right here that I could do that helps me feel better and helps me feel like I can get through the rest of today, right? So maybe that's, turning off the lights in my classroom. Maybe it's, turning towards the whiteboard just to let go of that teacher face for just a second and be able to like, right? Maybe it's putting on some soft music. Maybe it's going and visiting one of those friends or coworkers that you talked about in the Who section. Maybe it's taking a walk around, the building in a space. Whatever it is, something that you can do right here because it's 10:30. I got to stay at work and I got to get through the rest of today. So now we know when we need to pull that cord. We know who's going to help us stay through the rest of the day and help us feel more grounded. We know what are some things that we can do in that moment that can help us feel more grounded. And the next W is where. Where can we go where we feel safe at school? Is it in my classroom with the door shut? Is it in my office? Is it in my friend's office or classroom? Some of us feel safer in small and quiet spaces. Some of us feel safer in big and loud spaces. So I actually feel most comfortable in loud spaces. So you'll usually find me when I'm stressed out, like kind of taking laps in cafeterias or gymnasiums, right? Just trying to get space in this noisy space. It feels good for me. So whatever that is for you, where is it that you feel safe where you could go 10:30 on a Tuesday and you need to make it through the rest of today? Now, the last W, we know when, we know who, we know what, and we know where. The last W is words. You gotta have something that you can say to yourself in that moment. I know many of you guys already have like a canned phrase of some sort. I think of it literally like the can with like the snake that comes out of a Peanuts can, like that old prank. Because we need something that is muscle memory for us. Because when we're in that stressed position, and maybe you're saying to yourself, like, think of the positives or think of something good. And then that negative voice inside your head is like, there is no upside, right? Like, it's hard to override that negative voice in our head. We have to have something we can just open up that can and let that snake out, right? Something that we can say that can help us get through the rest of today. Many of us already have something like this, like you can do this, you can do anything for a week, you've got this, you're great, whatever it is that you think. For me personally, my go-to is don't quit, dig in deeper. That's what I say to myself. This can be absolutely anywhere. So if I'm stressed out at a school, you might find me doing laps in a cafeteria, taking deep breaths, and inside my head, right? Well, I've texted my husband at home, and inside my head, I'm like, don't quit digging deeper, right? Because I'm just trying to get through today, get through the rest of today. And now, if I have had to pull the emergency cord today, I am definitely absolutely 100% singing karaoke in my living room tonight. No option, no other option, because there has been a breach in my protective gear and I need to refortify that protective gear. So whatever it is, right? And it might not just be tonight that I'm going to do karaoke. Maybe I'm going to also invite a couple friends on Friday and we're going to do karaoke, right? And then maybe we're going to go to Target and go Christmas shopping on Saturday, right? I'm going to prioritize myself in these next couple of days because there has been a noticeable breach in my protective gear and I need to reinforce that gear, right? All right. Oh, I had examples. I could have put that up. Sorry. Um, the last thing I'm going to say before we go for our session today is that I know that this is like this work can easily drag us into the muck, right? I know that, maybe we just did a, self-care session and we feel good and we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. Or maybe we just get off of winter break and we feel good again and we're like, yeah, we can do it. And then it's like March and April and May. And it's easy to kind of get sucked into the conversations about, oh, this job sucks, or this is so hard, or we have to do. It's easy to get sucked into that negative energy. And so, for this reason, the last strategy that I'm going to share is just everyday joy. This is so cheesy and and you have to like bear with me a little bit for it, but it's crazy. Like finding something on purpose every day that brings you joy. That's it. Some days it's easier than others, right? I play with my kids high low buffalo, where we say our high of the day, our low of the day. And then buffalo is tends to be more like a kind of like a wild card, most surprising or unexpected thing that happened. Um, and so I know my kids are going to ask me, what were some good things? So I'm looking for joy all the time. And it's funny, the more you look for joy, the more joy you find. You find it everywhere in these little moments and these big moments. Yeah, big moments. Oh my gosh, I was on the surfer experience at Kalahari, right? That was amazing. Sometimes it's really small. Like I had a really ripe orange at lunch. I mean, sometimes it's not going to be that all exciting, but by looking for joy every day, I find joy every day. And that helps me stay out of that muck, right? Because this job is hard, this work that we do is hard, but the lives that we live are so amazing. We are awesome. We are doing so many awesome things every day and having fun doing it. So we're gonna eat better. We're gonna drink more. We're gonna create stuff and label and organize and clean stuff. And we're going to do for others. And we're gonna ooh, do for others. And we're gonna, say yes. Do something fun for yourself, right? Make that time and remember that you're awesome. Think about this as that lesson plan. Just little everyday things as well that you can just put together for you. And then if we start to feel that burn, remembering of all things, remembering that this burn is a normal, expected thing to feel in this job. It doesn't say anything about you as a teacher or as an administrator. It doesn't say anything about you as a person. It is a normal part of this job. And if I start to feel those feelings, I know that I have my emergency cord 5Ws that I can pull that can help me get through the rest of today. And then I know I'm definitely got 100% fortify that protective gear on the back end. I the work you do is so hard and it really is not something that you can do if you're not taking care of yourself. And from someone who truly, I mean, the teachers in my life truly saved my life. And I mean that metaphorically, but I also mean it very literally. They saved my life. And I know that they could not have been there in the way that they were if they had not been taking care of themselves. I know they couldn't have been there physically in the way they were. I know they could not have been there emotionally in the way that they were with me. These kids are counting on you to take care of you. You need to take care of yourself. It's not about being selfish. It's about being good at your job. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me today. We will see you again in January and then again in February. And I'm excited. I hope that everything is great for your winter break. I do, Beth, want to go back to that page, don't I?
Yep.
To that form.
And I posted the link in the chat too, so if that's easier to click there.
Because this is the form that she needs. Mine is just for me, and if you want it. This is the feedback though for the series. And Beth did add it again into the chat. But thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your school semester, maybe another couple of days, right? We'll make it through. And then have a wonderful winter break. And we'll see you at the end of January. It's actually my dad's birthday that we're meeting in January. So we'll see you on my dad's birthday. Have a great rest of your day, guys. I'm here for questions if you have anything.